There are days when just stepping through my front door feels like a deep breath of relief. Not because the house is big, not because the furniture is fancy, but simply because everything is in its right place. I remember when that feeling used to be unfamiliar. There was a time when I was overwhelmed by clutter, items stacked from one month to the next, and the cleaning just never seemed to end. As soon as I finished one area, another would be in chaos. And the worst part wasn't the mess itself, it was the sinking feeling that I was slowly losing control of the space I lived in. But things started to change. Not because of some massive cleaning spree, and not because someone came to help. It all began with a few tiny habits. So small, I never imagined they could make such a big difference. In this video, I'll be sharing 12 daily habits, simple habits that have helped me keep my home clean and organized without exhausting myself cleaning all week long. This is my real story. And if you saw a glimpse of yourself in those first few lines, stay with me until the end of this video. You're watching Senior Rise, where you and I create a gentler, more intentional life every single day. Don't forget to leave a comment, share your thoughts, and if this video helps, go ahead and subscribe. Because a home isn't just a place to live, it's a place where we can finally breathe a little easier every time we return. Habit 1. 30 seconds before leaving the house. I used to think that keeping a tidy home meant spending the whole morning cleaning. But one day, I discovered something surprisingly simple. Just 30 seconds before stepping out the door could make my entire home feel lighter for the rest of the day. When I tried it, it was so effortless that I asked myself, why didn't I start doing this sooner? Before heading out, whether it's to the market, for a walk, or just to check the mail, I take exactly 30 seconds to look around the room I'm leaving. I pick up the glass from the table and bring it to the kitchen. I fold the throw blanket draped over the sofa. I fluff and straighten the pillows. I return the remote from the armrest to the drawer. And if there's anything left out, I gently place it in a nearby catch-all basket. Just 30 seconds, no more. And then I walk out the door with a completely different feeling inside. The magic is this: when I return, my home welcomes me with peace. There's no mess waiting by the door, no silent frustration whispering, "You have to clean again." And that one shift changes the tone of my entire afternoon. When I shared this with others, some laughed and said, "What can you even do in 30 seconds?" But to me, it's not just an action. It's a reset button for both my living space and my state of mind. Try it. Next time you step out, take just 30 seconds. And if you feel a difference, come back and tell me in the comments. Who knows, you might be just as surprised as I was. Habit 2. The 5-minute rule. I used to have a long list of things I'd say, "I'll do that later." Sometimes it was a half-finished cup still sitting on the table, or a few clean clothes folded and left on a chair, a pile of unopened mail, a bag that needed to be carried upstairs. And you know what? That later often never came. Until one day, I asked myself, how long does each of these tasks really take? I grabbed a timer. Washing a single cup, less than 30 seconds. Folding and putting away clothes, barely 2 minutes. Opening and sorting mail, maybe 3 minutes. I was stunned. All those things I had been putting off for hours took less than 5 minutes to complete. So from that day on, I started a new habit. If something takes less than 5 minutes, I do it immediately. No waiting, no overthinking. Just do it. And something magical happened after a few days. I stopped seeing clutter everywhere. I stopped feeling like the chores were chasing me all day long, and that peaceful, quiet feeling in the evening started to come back. The 5-minute rule isn't just a cleaning trick, it's a lesson in how we treat the little things in life. Because often, it's the small things we ignore that end up weighing us down the most. So next time you place that bowl in the sink and think, "I'll wash it later," pause and ask yourself, will this take less than 5 minutes? If yes, do it now. Because sometimes those 5 minutes are what save you from an entire afternoon of stress. Are you putting something off right now? If so, I invite you to try the 5-minute rule right after this video. And if you do, come back and leave a comment. I'd love to know how it felt for you. Habit 3. The touch it once rule. There are small things that if we handle the wrong way, they come back to us like a tiring boomerang. I realized this when I looked around my home and saw a jacket lazily resting on the arm of a chair, an opened letter sitting in the middle of the dining table, a half-read book left temporarily somewhere and never picked up again. And I came to a quiet truth. Every time I touched something and didn't deal with it completely, I was creating one more thing I'd have to come back to later. Then I heard a simple rule: touch it once. From that day on, I decided to try it out. Open a letter, read it, and immediately decide: keep it, deal with it, or toss it. Take off a coat, hang it right away, not on the chair. Pick up the remote. When done, put it back in its place. At first, I had to be very conscious, almost like coaching myself. You touched it, now follow through. But slowly, it became automatic. And strangely enough, not only did my house become tidier, but so did my mind, because I wasn't carrying a mental list of unfinished little tasks anymore. I also discovered a deeper truth. Many of the messes in our homes are just delayed decisions. Learning to touch it once is really about practicing decisiveness. And in those small acts of decisiveness, we take back control over our living space. Let me ask you, is there something you've left in a temporary spot that's now been sitting there for an entire week? If so, tell me in the comments, because you're not alone. I've been there too. Habit 4. Everything needs a home. There's something that sounds simple, yet it took me decades to truly understand. If an item doesn't have a designated home, it will always be lost. I used to spend entire mornings searching for my keys. I'd tear through drawers just to find a charging cable. I'd dig through my purse, bookshelves, even the fridge, yes, the fridge, just to find a document I urgently needed to sign. And one day, I blurted out, "Why am I living like I'm always searching for something?" I realized the problem wasn't my memory. It wasn't because I was messy. It was simply because most things didn't have a home. So I started a small journey. Keys? I hung them on a hook right by the door. Charging cables? Placed neatly in a lidded box in the living room. Important papers? Sorted by category, labeled, and stored in separate drawers. Every single item, even the smallest, I would ask, where is the most logical place for you to live in this home? And once I had the answer, I made a quiet promise to myself. Every time I used it, I would return it to its home. At first, I had to remind myself constantly, but within a few weeks, it became second nature. And the best part? Other people in the house began to follow suit, because suddenly, everything made sense. Everything had a place. You see, tidiness doesn't come from putting things away quickly. It comes from knowing exactly where each item belongs. If there's still something in your home that mysteriously disappears every single day, Try giving it a permanent home. Then tell me after a week, are you still searching for it? Habit 5. The catch-all box. Temporary, not messy, used to believe that in order to keep a tidy home, every single item had to be put away immediately and perfectly. And ideally, that's true. But in real life, how often does that actually happen? There were days when I'd be halfway through cooking dinner and suddenly spot my grandson's toy rolling under the chair, or moments when I'd just taken off my sweater but felt too exhausted to do anything except sit down and breathe. That's when I learned a beautifully gentle solution. Place a catch-all box in each room, a temporary landing zone for things you can't put away right away. It's not a laundry basket. It's not a junk pile. It's intentional. I chose containers that looked nice and blended into the space. A small woven basket in the living room, a sleek wooden box on the nightstand, a charming little tray next to the kitchen counter. Whatever item felt out of place but didn't yet have a home or couldn't be put away immediately, I gently placed it in the box. The most important part? I empty those boxes every evening. They're never allowed to turn into clutter. They're simply a soft pause, a place to breathe first, clean later. Since using these catch-all boxes, I've stopped feeling like I need to be perfect every minute of the day. I allow myself a little mess, but still have a system to return to order. And something magical happened. The whole family started cooperating more. I no longer hear, "Mum, where does this go?" Now I just say, "Drop it in the box. I'll take care of it tonight." If you've been feeling pressured to handle everything right away, try placing a simple box in a visible spot. And tell me after 1 week, do you feel more at peace, or at least a little less overwhelmed? Habit 6. 15 minutes a day. Clean enough without exhaustion. I used to think if you're going to clean, it better be a full-on session, a proper, all-out cleaning spree. But then every weekend, I hesitated. My back hurt, my legs ached, my mood dipped, and the housework, like a never-ending wave, came crashing down again into my little home. I was stuck in that cycle, waiting until I had the energy to clean. But when I did clean, I was twice as tired, and days later, the mess came back anyway. Until one day, I flipped the script. I decided to clean every day, but only for 15 minutes. No more. Each morning, I set a timer. Just 15 minutes, I'd pick one small area. Today, the dining table. Tomorrow, the bathroom. The next day, a corner of the kitchen. No overdoing it, no pressure, just one spot. Then stop when the timer ends. At first, I didn't believe it would work. But after a week, I realized something surprising. My home had never felt this clean and tidy, so gently. No intense cleaning marathons, no exhaustion hangovers, just one quiet feeling. I was in control, a little every day, and everything was beginning to flow. The best part of this habit? It's like brushing your teeth. You don't overthink it. You don't overplan. You just do it because you know it's good for you. I even prepared a mini cleaning kit for each zone. A cloth, a spray bottle, a hand broom, so I wouldn't waste time looking for tools. Because those 15 minutes are precious. They shouldn't be spent walking circles around the house. You don't have to take my word for it. Just try it once. Tomorrow morning, when your home is still quiet, set the timer. Choose one small area and clean like you're giving yourself the gift of peace. If after a few days you feel lighter, happier, come back and tell me. I'm always here, listening to the small changes we're creating together. Habit 7. Don't keep what you don't use anymore. I used to keep an old blender, just in case I might need it someday. I held on to clothes I hadn't worn in 5 years because of memories. I stored books I knew I'd never read again, simply because it felt wrong to let go. My house slowly filled with these kinds of things. Each item had its reason to stay, but none of them truly served my present life anymore. Then one day, I heard someone say, "If you haven't touched it in a year, you probably don't need it." That sentence bothered me at first, but then I gave it a try. Just a small try. I started in the kitchen. Some pots had moldy handles. There were mismatched cups and mugs. Then I moved to the bedroom. Clothes that no longer fit, but I still kept them, as if clinging to a memory. I realized I'd been holding on to too much because a part of me was afraid to let go. But after I cleared it out, I felt a strange lightness. The space could breathe. My mind felt quieter, and most unexpectedly, I began to appreciate the things I chose to keep even more. I'm not saying you should toss everything, but try this. Pick up each item and ask, does this still serve my life today? If the answer is no, then maybe it's already fulfilled its purpose. If you've ever stuffed things in a drawer just because you felt guilty or told yourself, "I'll deal with that later," then forgot, leave a comment with the number 7. Let me know you're not alone. I've been there too, and I started with just one small drawer. Habit 8. The I don't know box. A gentle way to let go without guilt. There were times I stood frozen in front of an item, unable to decide, not because it was important, not because it was expensive, but simply because I didn't know whether to keep it or let it go. An old greeting card, a broken watch my husband once loved, a gift from a friend I no longer speak to. None of them were useful anymore, but throwing them away made me feel guilty. So I kept them. I called them the undecidables. And as the years passed, that pile only grew bigger, until one day I found a softer way to handle it. I created a box and labeled it, "I don't know." I placed it in the corner of a cabinet, tucked away, but easy to remember. Any item that brought hesitation, I placed inside. Then I stuck a date on it. 3 months from today. If I hadn't touched it by then, I knew it was time to let go. It might sound strange, but this little system truly helped ease my guilt. I didn't pressure myself to decide right away. I gave myself time to feel, to ask whether the item still held meaning or was just a shadow from my past. And the strange part? Most of the things I put in that box, I didn't even remember placing them there. When I opened it again, I smiled and whispered, "Thank you and goodbye." If you have something like that, an item you're unsure about, try putting it in a box. Not to throw it away just yet, but to give yourself permission to decide later. You don't have to make every decision today, but you can create gentle exits so the process doesn't hurt as much. Habit 9. The 4-box matrix. Organizing your space by true value. One day, I opened my closet and stood there, blankly staring inside. Not because I had nothing to wear, but because there was too much, and I didn't know where to begin. It felt overwhelming, confusing, like trying to host a party in a room with no space for guests to even walk in. I needed a system, not just to rearrange things again, but to help me make gentler, clearer decisions. And I found a simple method. I called it the 4-box matrix. It's how I now sort every item in my home. Whenever I clean a space, from a tiny drawer to a full room, I mentally sort everything into 4 groups. Box 1. I use this often, and I truly value it. These items deserve the best spots, visible and easy to reach. Box 2. I don't use this often, but it still holds meaning. Keepsakes, important documents, seasonal items. I store them safely, but not in everyday spaces. Box 3. I use this often, but it's not precious. Things like kitchen utensils, lunch boxes, cleaning cloths. They should be accessible, but don't need prime placement. Box 4. I don't use this often, and I don't value it. This is where the goodbyes begin. In the past, I often kept Box 4 items in Box 1's place and shoved my most meaningful things into hidden corners. Not because I didn't know how to organize, but because I never paused to ask, does this really matter to me? Since using this matrix, something changed. I began to see clearly what truly deserves to stay and what's only occupying space in my home and in my mind. If you're feeling overwhelmed, unsure what to keep or let go, try this method. You might be surprised to find that what weighs your heart the most is quietly sitting in Box 4. Habit 10. Fewer flat surfaces. Less surface, less clutter. This is something I realized a bit late in life, but once I did, it had a much bigger impact than I expected. Flat surfaces in your home are magnets for clutter. Anytime there's an empty surface, a table, a shelf, the top of a cabinet, the kitchen counter, it eventually becomes a landing pad for things you just put down for a second. Bills, grocery bags, unopened mail, an unwashed cup, a towel that needs folding. It starts with one thing, then another, and suddenly a mess has multiplied before your eyes. Every time I saw it, a small knot formed in my chest. Not because I was lazy, but because I had allowed what should have been a free zone to become a dumping ground. So I made one simple decision. I reduced the number of flat surfaces in my home that were allowed to hold things. I chose a few non-negotiables, like the dining table, kitchen counter, and windowsills. I cleaned them thoroughly and placed a small decorative item on each, just enough to say, this space is taken. From that moment on, anything left on those surfaces had to earn its place. I stopped saying, I'll just leave it here for now, and started asking, where does this truly belong? Reducing available flat space may sound counterintuitive, but it's actually how I've kept my home tidy every day without having to constantly clean. You can try starting with something small, like the coffee table. Wipe it down, place a flower vase or a photo frame, and make a promise. This is my no-clutter zone. Just that one shift can lift your mood in surprising ways. What about you? Is there a flat surface in your home that always gets buried in stuff? Write it in the comments, because sometimes changing one small corner changes the energy of an entire space. Habit 11. A nighttime walk around my home. I used to end my day by flipping off the lights and diving straight into bed. After 8 p.m., I didn't want to even think about cleaning, but I began to notice something. The next morning, when I walked out of my bedroom and saw a pile of unwashed dishes, scattered shoes, or a pillow lying on the floor, my mood sank. So I changed my rhythm. Now, before I go to bed, I take a short walk around the house. Not to clean deeply, but to gently restore what slipped out of place. I straighten the slippers. I wipe down the stove in 30 seconds. I fold the blanket on the sofa. I gather a few small out-of-place items and return them home. The whole journey takes just 5 to 7 minutes. And when I turn off the final light, a different kind of peace settles in. I feel like I've wrapped up my day completely, leaving nothing hanging, nothing waiting. The next morning, I step out and smile. The house welcomes me with order, and somehow that leads to a better day. If you often feel exhausted from the moment you wake up, maybe it's not your morning routine that needs changing, but your evening one. You don't have to do everything, just one gentle round, placing small things back where they belong. Because tidiness isn't perfection, it's an act of love before rest. If you're still here with me now, thank you, truly. Comment, "I'm still here," so I know you're still listening. And feel free to share. Do you have a nighttime habit that helps ease your mind before sleep? Habit 12. I say thank you before I step outside. This last habit has nothing to do with cleaning. It won't help you organize your closet or tidy up your shelves, but I believe it's the spiritual foundation for all the habits before it. Every morning, right before I step out the door, I pause for just 1 second. I don't check the mirror. I don't reach for my wallet. I simply whisper a quiet sentence. Thank you, house. Thank you for shielding me from the sun and the rain. Thank you for keeping me safe through the night. Thank you for the memories, the meals, the laughter, and even the quiet moments when I cried. No matter how messy yesterday was, no matter how cluttered today might be, this house is still here, greeting me with morning light. And you know what? Just that one simple thank you is enough to help me step outside with a lighter heart. Not rushed, not burdened, but with a deep sense of knowing I have a place to come home to. Tidying doesn't begin with a mop. It begins with gratitude. And when you feel grateful for your home, you'll want to care for it. Not out of duty, but because you love it, like you love someone dear. If someone asked me, "How do you keep your home so clean and organized?" I wouldn't hand them a long to-do list. I wouldn't talk about smart storage containers or complicated cleaning schedules. I would simply smile and say, I love my home a little bit more each day. The 12 habits I've shared with you today, they didn't come all at once. I wasn't naturally good at them. They came from the days I felt tired, when my house was messy and my heart wasn't in a better place either. But each time, I started with something small, like folding the blanket on the couch or rinsing a cup right after using it. I felt like I was doing something for myself, not for anyone else. And gradually, my home became cleaner, not just free of dust, but free of the emotional weight that used to linger. I realized this. A truly tidy home isn't one that's never messy. It's a place where you know how to put things back in order, with patience, care, and a little soul every single day. You don't have to do all 12 habits by tomorrow. Just pick one, the one that feels easiest to start. Try it for a week. I believe you'll feel something shift, not just in your space, but in the way you treat yourself. If you're still listening, drop a comment saying, I'm still here, so I know you're walking this path with me. There's one habit you'd like to try today. Share it below. I'm always listening. And if this video brought you even a little peace, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might also be looking for calm and comfort in their home. You don't need a grand reason to change, just one small habit, and a gentle reminder that you deserve to live in a space that makes you feel light. See you in the next video. I'm still here, walking with you, one small step at a time, on this journey to make life after 60 more peaceful, more beautiful, and more worth living.